Hi there, this is Carl Irwin. This is a look at a MuseScore project. I haven't posted anything in a while, so I figured I would do a little bit of a project here. I've had some time in my hands coming into the summer. And this is a kind of a pop sort of treatment inside of MuseScore. And I guess what got me thinking about this is I wanted to investigate some of the new Muse sounds that are sort of rock band instrumentation, keyboards and guitars and whatnot that are in there in the Muse Sounds library. But I also wanted to try some integration of the older sound font sounds that are in there, because those are very useful for pop type music because they're highly synthesized anyway, just through some basic mixing and the application of some reverb. It occurred to me that you should be able to use those sounds in a very meaningful way in association with these Muse sounds. It should kind of boost their realism by mixing and matching things together. So that was one thought. But I had in my mind a tune. I should say, first of all, I'm not a songwriter. I don't write songs. I'm a composer, but being a songwriter is a very special kind of skill set, and I don't do any songwriting. I think I wrote a few songs back when I was in college, just as an exercise, sort of. But those songs were more art song than they were pop music. I'm not a songwriter. I'm not a lyricist, so I figured I would just do a cover of an old song. And what I had in my mind was the old song Earth Angel, and in this tune, kind of a Motown tune, pops up, is performed by what's his name, Marvin Berry and the Starlighters, I guess is the name of the band in the movie in Back to the Future. And in the scene, they sing this song Earth Angel, and what Silvestri does, Alan Silvestri was the film score composer for that film, he inserts underscore into the music, and they match up together right at the very end, the last 30 seconds or so. You have this very high-class, high-string section playing over the top of Earth Angel. That's not in the original tune. And it's just so artfully done. It's so well done, and it improves the song dramatically. I think it's the best version ever of that song is the one that appears in the movie for that reason. So I was thinking about that, putting maybe a high-class string section into an old sort of song from the 1960s. So I thought of this song because by the Dave Clark 5, and I looked online to see if there'd been any covers on it, and shockingly there's not very many, not particularly on YouTube. I mean, usually with some of these really good old songs, you'll find all kinds of modern, updated covers, but I couldn't really find any of that song. I think I found one. So I thought, hey, I'll do that one. This will be an experiment. I can sing, and I have sung in some mock-ups before, but with something so exposed, I think I would just be irritated trying to edit my own voice. So what I did is I went to Synthesizer V, and I loaded in one of the freely available sound libraries, voice libraries, and I rendered out the lyrics for this, the singing voice. Is what it is. It's a pretty good high fidelity. I mean, you can tell if you know what it is. You can tell that it's synthesized. If you don't, you wouldn't necessarily recognize that it is. But you know, the voice that was available. It's kind of like going shopping. And I always tell my wife when we go shopping for something specific, I always tell her, look, you need to buy from whatever exists. You can't purchase something that doesn't exist. So don't have an ideal in your mind and then try to find that in what's available. You have to pick from what is available. So that's kind of the way this works when you're dealing with free sounds. It's not like you can be, beggars can't be choosers. So it works. It works okay as an exercise. I probably could tweak it a little bit further, but it's really not worth my time to spend too much more on it. What I really wanted to try, though, was a trick to put a synthesizer, kind of a warm synthesizer in, playing the melody, render that out as a wave file, and then I wanted to, it's a saw wave, and then I wanted to bring the MIDI data into Synthesizer V, render out a voice, and then bring those two files into a vocoder. And I did that experiment, and it did work. It just seemed really out of place for this. But it occurred to me that that's a really good way to get perfectly lined vocoder tracks. Create the wave track with a saw wave, render the MIDI for that track out, put it into a voice synthesizer engine, and it should render out something that is accurate to the, to the note, so that you can, whenever you integrate these two things into a vocoder, you get perfectly lined. It worked exceptionally well. I just didn't bother continuing with that for this. It just seemed really out of place. So anyway, I just used the voice in here, and you're not going to hear the voice as we look at the project, but you can see the voices up here with some phonetic spellings in there so that it would work out in the voice synthesizer. The rest of this, though, let's just take a quick peek at what's going on. I've got a vibraphone on top, just a few little tinkly things up here that are not particularly in time. I have a bongo set. I've got a snare drum. What I did is I put in the drum kit, which is actually the classic sound font, MuseScore sound font. And then I put in the MuseSound snare drum, and then I put in, it says bass drums. These are actually Japanese drums. These are large drums, taiko drums. And I put these in, just a couple of them, to boost that bass a little bit, to give it a little bit more of a thundery sort of feel to it, without having a concert bass drum. I didn't want to use a concert bass drum. I wanted the thump of the bass, but the bass sound in the sound font kit is not very strong. So I just augmented that a little bit. Here's the voice synthesizer down there. What I did is I rendered out a kind of a rhythmically accurate iteration of the voice. Then when I brought it into Synthesizer V, I tweaked it in there so that it would be more human. And then I exported that MIDI and brought it back into here. So this is note for note accurately what is actually being sung, which is more like what a human would do. I've got the soft piano in. It says grand piano, but this is actually the soft piano sound. Very soft in the background. These little syncopated rolls that are going on. Very, very atmospheric kind of playing. The main instrument is actually the electric piano down here, which is a Wurlitzer. It's the MuseSounds Wurlitzer. Really great electric piano. Really nice sound. Good job on that sample set. So this is kind of the main driving force, playing these eighth notes and the little bass line down here. Then I have an electric guitar. So this is playing some, strumming some rolls. And I did not really get too technical about playing, accurate voicings. I just put the, triad in there in inversion to get the sound that I wanted. I didn't really, analyze this for accuracy in terms of guitar playing. That really wasn't my concern. And then I have the bass guitar down here. So this is the MuseSounds bass guitar, but underneath that I have the sound font bass guitar an octave lower, playing a sub bass to beef up the low end of this bass guitar, so it just kind of thumps through a little bit more. So this is a concept that I've been playing around with an awful lot, to augment sounds, Muse sounds, with other sounds, and just mixing them together. And because it is a notation program and it doesn't humanize the tracks independent of each other, you can have two tracks. So as long as they are in tune with each other, you can actually layer up sounds, and like as in a synthesizer, where you have a bunch of different oscillators, you can augment the sound to make it still sound like one instrument, but change its quality. So that's something I've been playing around with. I did that on the bass guitar. And then down here I have a Hammond organ. This is a sound font. No. This is not this is the Hammond organ, the MuseSounds Hammond organ. And then the Dream piano down here is a sound font instrument. And this is, again, very atmospheric little lick that shows up every now and then. It's not a lot of in-depth playing. Again, the bulk of the music is really this Wurlitzer piano up here, the guitar, the bass. These are the three main instruments, and then some very light stuff going on the piano. Then I have a little vibraphone lick up here that comes in every now and then. So those are the instruments for the kind of rhythm section. Down here, then I have a string complement, and for realism, what I've been doing is I'm duplicating my strings where I can have a single instrument play at a slightly different pan. So I have a violin 1 section, violin 2 section, which is a solo and section strings, then violin 2 solo section strings, viola solo section strings, cello solo section strings, contrabass, and then I have a warm pad synthesizer on a sub bass. This plays everything that the contrabass plays an octave lower, and it's set very, very soft in the mix. So this is the complement. Let's take a look at what's going on here. Play back a little bit of this. So I have the synthesizer muted. The voice synthesizer is muted, so you're not going to hear that saw wave playing through here. Okay, so that's the track. That's just the instrumental track. And there's obviously, when you hear the playback that I have on the channel here just before this video, you hear some other things going on. My process was that I just exported this exactly as it is with the mix that I wanted. I set the mix here in MuseScore, and I created the accompaniment track, and then I sent that out. Then I brought this into Audacity with the synthesizer V voice. So I have the synthesizer V voice up here, and what I did is I'm not going to get into synthesizer V to show that to you, but I created two iterations of the voice, one that was more intense and one that's more breathy. And then I mixed and matched phrases to give it more of a humanization, because I don't think you can do automation, at least not on my version of synthesizer V. I'm just using the free version and free sounds. So that sounds like this with a few effects. I put a reverse a very subtle reverse reverb on it. I put a regular reverb on it, and I also put some distortion onto it. And then I came up with this here, which is then enveloped, of course, to match up with the accompaniment.
It's right that I should care about you and try to make you happy when you're blue. It's right to feel the way I do because I love you.
Okay, so that's the sound. It gets a little bit bolder here if you listen.
Give me one kiss and I'll be happy.
So you can see how I switched the iterations. Then I have underneath that the track that we just listened to with the orchestra background, the band. Okay. Then I added to this, I have a couple of effects. So these effects right here are reverse reverb for the very beginning and then for this little interlude break. And you can see how this fits in. Okay, so that's the beginning, and then here's the interlude break. Okay, and then you can hear what this sounds like with the orchestra. Okay, so just a little bit of digital processing effect, and of course everything together.
I love you because.
Okay, and that's the final track. So this was then rendered out, mixed down to this. So this is the mix down.
Cause when you say these things, you know it makes me blue.
And then what I did is I applied a parallel compression. So this is the parallel compression down here. And if I were to normalize this out full, you would see it's just a big sausage track of very, very stark compression. And then I bring this, I applied to it an equalization to brighten it up. So it brings up the high frequencies and low frequencies, puts a bit of a mid scoop into it. And then I normalize this down very, very small. And then I mix these two together, and that gets me this output down here. And then this is edited and mastered using just a little bit more a normalization, a little bit of limiting to get it to what you hear on the playback. Now, if I was to go further with this, like if I was going to release this, which obviously I can't because it's not my song, I would probably make this a lot louder. I would probably compress this a little bit more, do a little bit more limiting, and get this a lot wider so that it would match kind of other radio playback. But otherwise, this is the final mastered output, and you can hear it here. So you can hear that in comparison to the original. This is the original export. Not a lot of difference. I mean, I don't go crazy with my mastering. I try to get a good mix first, and then I apply very subtle changes in the mastering chain, just to kind of tweak it a little bit more, make everything bleed, melt together and bleed against, tracks that are from separate sources bleed together to make one new thing. So anyway, that's the process, and I figured I would just share it with you. So my verdict on this is that MuseScore 4 is highly capable of doing this pop kind of stuff. It's actually pretty robust in terms of the sounds that you have available to you, not just with the Muse sounds, but with the old sounds. All of the old classic sound font sounds are very useful, especially when mixed and integrated together with the Muse sounds, or when sounds are made as a composite to create a new sound, to generate a new kind of sort of instrument quality. Anyway, so that's the project. Hope you enjoyed this little dive into this idea. If you're a songwriter and you want to mock up for some of your songs, you don't have a band, you don't have access to a band, well, you've got one here in MuseScore 4 with pretty good control. So anyway, best of luck with that. Happy composing and happy mixing.